I've been retired for about 10 months now. And in that time, I have learned so much about myself. And I don't know if it's because I'm a chronic overthinker. I already knew that, but I just have a lot more time to think about things. But also because this is such a new phase of life, and I've been navigating so many new experiences that it's given me the ability to really just step back and say, oh, how I thought about these things before are not at all how I need to think about things going forward. And that's why I wanted to share this video today, not only because I don't think I'm alone in my insights and learnings about these things, but also because I know a lot of you are either preparing to retire or you are newly retired, and there might be some things that maybe you're freaking out about or that feel very weird or unusual. So I just wanted to share these things because in the 10 months that I've been retired, my perspective on them have completely changed. And I think they're probably the three most important things that I would want to relay to anyone who's either preparing to retire or is newly retired. And of course, these are just my opinions. I would love everyone to weigh in the comments because I think this is where we have the richest discussion. So number one, in terms of the most important things I have learned in 10 months of retirement is that you can know something intellectually and see it on paper, and it has absolutely no bearing on your quality of life or the way you make decisions until you know it in your bones. And of course, this applies to so many areas of life, but I am talking specifically about the fear of having enough money as you're starting retirement. And I know that's true of anyone, no matter how hard you have saved and how much you've planned and how many years you've put off trying to accumulate this big elusive number that you've thought that if I hit that number, I know that I will have enough for retirement. And then you hit it and you retire and you still have that fear. And the reason that fear is there is because it has been embedded in you in your entire life. And I think that this is true for some folks more than others. I think we all have that fear of running out, no matter, what your financial situation is. But if you were raised with a level of scarcity that I have come to realize that I was raised with, then it is going to feel that much harder for you to get to a level of comfort that you have enough. And I didn't even realize how crippling that fear was until very recently. I just got back from a trip from Ireland. I went specifically to research my ancestors and visit older relatives that I don't know how much longer they're going to be around, and I just want to stay connected to them. And I was having a conversation with one of my uncles that gave me such an epiphany. I was asking him about his parents and whether or not they talked about growing up and their experiences and what their life was like as kids. And he's like, my parents never, ever talked about that stuff. My parents were always focused on the most immediate need, like how are we going to pay the rent, how are we going to put food on the table, and how are we going to raise, each of my parents came from a family of 7 kids. And with that, when you're not making a lot of money to begin with, when you're either a carpenter or a laborer or a servant or working in a kitchen somewhere, then your focus and priority is always on trying to scrape together enough for the present moment. It's rarely thinking about the future. It's always just, how are we going to get through the next day, the next week, the next month? And I had never really appreciated just how hard it was for them. I mean, I knew the way my grandparents grew up in theory. I saw the houses that they raised their families in, but I didn't really have a good sense of how immediate their needs were in terms of just trying to survive in the moment. And when you have that mentality, obviously you're going to pass it down to your kids. And then of course, my parents at the age of 23, newly married with a small child, decide to move to Canada to make a better life for their family. And I can only imagine how difficult that was with my father being a carpenter and my mother being a factory worker. And I never put 2 and 2 together, the way my parents dealt with money and how their parents and their parents before them, how this had an impact on me and the way that I have looked at finances my entire life. I've always had an unjustified anxiety around money and the need to buy my own peace. That is always bottom line what my motivation around saving has been. So with all of that said, no wonder it took me 10 months, and will honestly probably take me a lot longer, to relax into the knowing that I have enough to support myself for the rest of my life without this chronic fear of it never being enough or it might slip away, because that is just something that has been ingrained into my DNA. and how I think about money. And I share that very long story with you to really underscore a point. Not only does our parents influence the way we earn and spend money as we grow, they're also going to influence the way we retire, and in a very different way, because our retirement probably doesn't look anything like theirs. Neither of my parents even got to retire because they both died so young. But even before that, my family for centuries died in the fields when they were farming, because if you stopped farming, you stopped eating, right? So for me, retirement is a very new concept in my family lineage, and it's probably true for you too. So if you feel weird in retirement about spending money, it might have something to do with the way you were raised or the way your parents were raised. And it might actually be a little therapeutic for you to look back at how your parents retired, if they even had the chance, and appreciate the fact that your retirement is going to look a lot different from theirs if they even got to do it. And that's okay. That learning curve in and of itself has been huge for me because it's brought me peace and it's allowed me to let go of a lot of that anxiety. And I hope it'll do the same for you too. Okay, the next learning lesson that I had was more of an unlearning, if I had to be honest, and it's related to what I just shared in terms of money. And that's how I spent my time. Now, if you knew my mother, you knew that like sitting in some sort of idle way or relaxing was not allowed in our house. She had this concept of the wee jobby. And whenever she saw you not engaging in some kind of work, she would bestow work upon you. There would be a jobby, something that you needed to do. Whenever you came to the house to visit, there was something that needed to be moved or cleaned or organized. My mother was famous for the wee jobby. So what I learned growing up was that being idle or relaxing was not okay. You always had to be doing something. And again, I understand why she learned that lesson. Her life was very different from mine. But it really did have an impact on me, because if you knew me in real life, you would know that I'm not very good at chill. I do not have a good relaxation mode unless I'm literally at the end of my day on the couch with the TV on and a glass of wine in my hand. And that is when my nervous system knows it is okay to relax now. And anytime before that period, you would find me engaged in doing something. I was rarely someone to just chill out. So over the last 10 months, I have really learned to take it down a notch, to not equate my self-worth and my identity with how many projects I got done in a day or how busy I was. And I've had to actually learn to chill the F out and relax like a normal person. And that is a skill like anything else. So if you are newly retired or you're just getting there and you are someone who feels a need to be productive and optimize the most out of their time, this is going to be something that you will need to learn, and it will be uncomfortable, but I don't want you to think that you won't get there. Again, relaxing is a skill just like anything else, and some of us need to learn it, unfortunately, but you will. And when you learn that skill, you will let go of the need to optimize every moment of every day because you have a lot more time now. And it might freak some people out to the point where they might consider going back to work, just because they feel so weird about having all of this free time and actually relaxing. So if you are that person, trust me on this when I say it will take time for you to chill out and relax, but you will get there. It is worth the discomfort to get to the other end and finally feel that sense of peace. The last thing I've learned in the first 10 months of retirement, and this is related to being retired early, is that it's easier and better to not say that I'm retired. And I'm not talking about the people that know me well and know that I've been on a fire journey for about 10 years now. I'm talking about, people that I meet or that are new to me. If I say that I'm retired, it lands weird. And I don't know if that's because I'm on the younger side and maybe they're thinking, oh, does she have like a trust fund or something like that? They don't know all the things that I've done to move towards this goal for a long period of time. And I think it also creates this perception of me being a person who golfs all day or, reclines in my lazy boy. I don't know, maybe it's just the thoughts that I have running through my head, but I feel like this word retirement has a weird connotation to it. And once you're retired, you can never be anything but retired, or else, you did it wrong or you failed. And as I've said before, I might go back to work at some point. I may start a new business. I might write a book. I might do anything. Whether I get paid for it or not is not really the motivation anymore, so much as I get to choose what I do next. And that's what being retired means to me. I guess that I feel like when I tell people I'm retired, they get this image of me that isn't truly what I am, which is why I came up with the term retire-ish. But I found that it's just easier to tell people, I have my own business, which technically is true with this YouTube channel and my other one. And I would love to know, those of you who retired early, how you feel about that. Do you feel weird saying that you're retired? Do you call yourself something else? Do you get sort of odd remarks or questions when you say, oh yeah, I'm actually retired now? Or is this just completely something that I'm making up in my head? Because it very well could be that. So anyway, those are just some of the things that have occurred to me in these first 10 months. It has been a wild ride. Like I said, I've learned so much about myself, and even just having the time and space to let these things occur to me, which I would never have had really the thought or inclination before, is just such a privilege. It's amazing how much you learn about yourself when you have a heck of a lot more time to think about these things. So anyways, that's what I have for you guys today. I would love to know what you learned about yourself in the first year of retirement. Please drop a comment below. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye for now.